So, building products in troubled times. And how are we empowering family historians as we do that at Findmypast? Okay, so as I step us through here and make sure I am on the right slide. Okay, there we go. So who am I? Okay, I am a techno-optimist and a futurist. And why am I presenting today? So I have a belief that technology can help us solve the most challenging problems we face globally. And that digital products especially can help us address things like diversity and inclusion. So I like to give as much of my own time as I can to attract more folks into product who can help make this happen. And I myself came through the engineering analytics class. So yeah, happy to answer questions on that as it comes up. Okay, so who is Findmypast that I am leading this for in regards to the product? Okay, so Findmypast is a small UK company with offices actually around the world. London and Dundee being our main headquarters, about 150 to 180 people in this lovely photo here. And you can also see the principles of our company culture that also apply to everything we do in product, which is stay curious, be human, honor history, and create magic. We're basically bringing technology to the world of digital archives and records as we help people find their identities and celebrate this, build up their past, share their past with their loved ones, and connect with family. Something I think a lot of us are thinking about at the moment. Okay, so what was it like for us pre-pandemic? Okay, running across the top there, you can see a very interesting collection of photos. That's usually what most of our customers started out with when they started to get into building their family history. They might then go through records and archives, look up a census, and ultimately try to get to something often on paper that they could share onto their family as their legacy, their family tree. Sometimes these were in very, very old documents of families. You know, they would often be at the front of that a hand-drawn family tree. How does that change as companies like us bring technology to this industry? So you can see the 3 jobs to be done for us, just as a bit of extra context. So we see the family history hobby as discovering, building, and sharing. And discovering is basically something we can help with. So that's through our archivists and our internal historians and experts, helping people actually find those records, in many cases actually helping them discover it automatically, and giving them the searching products that they can go through and find it themselves. And then giving them that place where they can actually build that tree, which you can kind of see in the middle there, that's my family tree, into which they can add photos, to which they can record and structure the relationships. And the more information that they compile with the more like dates and things like that, the more we can automatically hint and offer to them discoveries. And ultimately, this can then be shared and can be viewed on different platforms so that they can present it to family, for example, while you're at Christmas together. Yeah, and then pandemic happened. And I think it's worth just taking a moment here. There are 7.8 billion people in the world right now as of August. And you can see on there my own journey through the pandemic. I'm always worried about my relatives in Australia recovering from chemo right now. I am taking my time to make sure I am supporting small and medium firms more than I ever did before, you know, supporting all of the businesses that you possibly can. And that's just one experience in 7.8 billion. And some of those experiences have been far, far worse than others. You know, we think about how many people have actually passed away due to COVID, how many people have lost loved ones, how many people are fearing bereavement, and how many people right now are trying to deal with that moment of unfathomable loss when they have lost loved ones. Something I can also relate to, having just a couple of years ago lost my own mother to cancer very horribly. Family history, as it is for many people who come to the hobby, is one of those things that help you deal with those incredibly challenging moments. It gave me a way to actually structure her memories, celebrate her achievements, and create a digital archive that I could then share on to the folks in the family, the next generation who haven't actually met her. So how we can actually bring that product to more people is something we think about all the time. Also happening in the pandemic, inspired by current events, people are uniting on very, very important issues in ways maybe they haven't in the past, particularly like diversity. You can see our CEO's announcement there. Black Lives Matter matters to us. Recognizing diverse families and relationships matters to us. Diversity matters to us at Findmypast a lot. So as these very, very challenging times were happening, we were already starting to think, how can we help more people with the product, how to discover it and how it can help them. We also wanted to help all family historians to find their own past, find their records that might have been more challenging before. And we want to empower people to celebrate and truly reflect their family relationships, things that might have been more difficult in a world with less diverse relationships. So despite the fact that it is pandemic, this is one of those things we really want to make a difference on. And a lot of folks in the company giving to in many, many ways. We would like to be making some differences in that space soon. Obviously, I can't mention too much around features. In addition to diversity, inclusion is something that we care a great deal about, especially inclusion for all family historians. So it's a hobby that often people connect with at different points in their journey through life. So it may be as they are leaving home for the first time and starting to think about their identity and all of the different wider family members that they came from, or that they are facing bereavement and preparing a legacy for the next generation. And it's important when you think about that and you're thinking about trying to empower and include everybody, the fact that 15% of the planet right now is classified as disabled by the World Health Authority. That's a lot of people. So it's something we're also thinking about. Diversity is important to us, but inclusion is important to us as well. And as we all age, as we all here age, even if we're not disabled right now, we will probably become disabled. It's a scary thought, but when you look at folks over 65 years of age, I should say, I think the stat is something like 33% have disabling hearing loss. There are increasing challenges as you get older. So we're working hard to make sure our products are also more accessible and inclusive for family historians, whatever their age or abilities. So as mentioned, this is a lot to take on in the middle of the pandemic. So how are we going to do this and how have we been doing this? We're taking on more inclusive design processes, and if you're interested in that, ping me offline and I could probably get into that in a lot more detail. But that's basically where you enrich and improve your mass market experiences by thinking about people who have more challenging user needs. And what does that actually look like for us as we take on this bigger mission, trying to prioritize and do a lot more good through incredibly challenging times as we're now all starting to work remotely. As also mentioned by Sarah before, our processes have also had to adapt in product. One of the key things as we try to listen to more people and more voices is, well, how do we do that in a socially distant way? So in terms of user research and discovery, we're leveraging a lot more tools like Lookback and other third-party tools that enable remote user research. This is one of my favorite tools, Lookback. So it allows you to record live usage, ask questions as you go. And our user research team is doing some pretty awesome research packs internally. Combined with the video snippets in the right way, they really, really resonate and connect, especially when most of the company is remote, when they play back in all hands, which is often where we're looking back at those studies. What else can we do? Okay, so as I think a lot of us are experiencing the problems with ZoomAche, internally we nicknamed some of those problems ZoomAche. So prior to lockdown, we were very, very heavy users of Zoom with folks in so many different cities. And it was one of the things that was coming up in employee surveys was that people who were in a remote site and were heavy users of Zoom felt isolated from conversations that might happen after meetings. So kitchen chats, corridor chats. And yes, as also mentioned, now that it's mid-lockdown, everybody's equal, but also everybody's in a lot more Zooms. So fighting ZoomAche is quite a challenge. So we have lots of hacks. For example, little things like settings that allow you to instant exit out of a Zoom, so that instead of the 2 or 3 buttons, it's 1 button. The Zoom break concept is also used at our firm, and we encourage people to do much shorter, unusually shorter meetings instead of the usual half hour, 1 hour, so that people can actually get between, get a drink. So 15 minutes and 45 minutes is very common. And here on my desk, I don't know if you can see this, but we also use a lot of these, I think it is the Agile stationary cards most of us have ordered, that allow you to give signal without actually having to come off mute, which is incredibly helpful for our presenters. Okay, particularly important as we are contributing at the Agile Roundabout space. Well, what does this mean for our methods? You know, how have they actually changed? And this is one of the things that's possibly actually sped up because of remote working in the pandemic. So as we want to move in product to empowered product teams, the Kagan model, and we want to have those teams much more self-managing and self-auditing, it means we're actually encouraging people to speak up more about how they would like to work, what works best for them. And it always reminds me of the Agile Manifesto, which I had to put up here because I love it so much, which is that point about individuals and interactions from that manifesto over processes and tools. We don't need to standardize processes and make everybody do the same thing. One particular team wants to have a slightly different interpretation of Agile, and they work really effectively that way. Frankly, so be it. Cool. Okay, so other changes we've been making are more comms and more transparent comms. So as people are worried, similarly for family members who may be recovering from chemo or in other high-risk categories, thinking long-term in a situation like that for OKRs has been a challenge. So we have changed and we are communicating more, communicating as broadly as possibly and as transparently as possible. So now at FMP, our product goals, our company goals are updating monthly. We actually have an all hands with everyone in the company twice a week. And we're involving our product experimentation methods, similar to that point mentioned by Sarah around knowledge transfer. So whereas teams would initially present to themselves, there's a lot more emphasis on presenting wider to their, not just their stakeholders, the company as a whole. Okay, there are interesting challenges around remote working and working from home. It's definitely been a win for some, but not all. And I think that's one of the key things that we've been learning as we've been going through this extended time. So yes, some people have no commutes now. So you have a very lovely time there to be having for breakfast, coffee, chats with the family. And they also have great home offices and huge gardens to stroll through and massive computer monitors. And these folks we have noticed prefer working from home. However, not everybody has that situation. So some people are finding, yes, nice, no commute, but you know, there are 5 people with them in a flat share. It's very hard to take a conference call. They can't find a quiet space. They're trying to take their calls from the top of the stairs or wherever the internet signal is good in the house. Yeah, and they have to keep reminding their family sometimes, please don't get changed in the background. Or they get reminded of that in private after the call. And these folks generally prefer working from work. So giving folks flexibility to do what's actually best for their circumstances and maybe kind of choose across the week as that city comes out of lockdown has been very beneficial for us. Okay, in terms of other changes, so how we actually work with each other has adapted. Yeah, it's not just important to be kind, it's also important to forgive fast. So random acts of appreciation, shout outs, they're great. But in these incredibly troubled times, everybody is having bad days, and maybe even more than they were having them before. So one of the things we've been particularly talking about in the product team is nobody is perfect, you know? So when somebody has a bad day, try to understand that and try to think about, heaven knows, you know, they might not even want to talk about the challenges. A family member could have just been taken into hospital with COVID. So, you know, really try to forgive them fast. And if you're lucky, maybe they might share with you, you know, what they're battling through in this pandemic. So some of the key takeaways for us, we want to prioritize doing good first, particularly around diversity and inclusion and what we can do to help people. Remote tools like Look Back and better use of Zoom really helping us. Letting the teams find the best self-organizing and self-managing methods for their impact. So empowered product teams, Agile, or which interpretation of Agile they're using. More comms and transparency, particularly across the company. Encouraging flexible options around working from home. Be kind, forgive fast. And it goes without saying, we're hiring. With those big ambitions, we are definitely hiring. So we're going through hiring at the moment for a product. You can find more details on our website, and we're hiring a lot of roles in technology as well, also in analytics and many other teams. Yeah, so if you're interested, check out our website. There is a 2-week free trial on the website for the product. So hopefully you might also get to find something out about your own identity and maybe even find some long lost relatives. And it might inform your choice about whether you might like to come work with us. Thank you very much. These are my contact details if you would like to chat on those topics afterwards. And I might switch it over now to John if we have any questions.
Thank you very much. And no, it's again really good to hear how a lot of takeaway messages as well from working in the pandemic, and how you're going to translate the things that you've learned when you do go back into the office. And I suppose from my point of view, Sarah mentioned how the product teams are organised at iTech. How is the product function organised in Findmypast, and how do you organise the product team?
So we're actually aligned to those jobs to be done that were mentioned before,
Okay.
which is discover, build, and share. And around that, the payments products for discover, build, and share. Within that, we have probably about half of the stakeholders in each area will work day to day together in the structure that works for them. Some are in Kanban, some are in Scrum, some are in 1-week sprints, 2-week sprints. And they will partner up with stakeholders and specialists from across the company. So maybe specialists in certain types of history or records, pretty much weekly.